Good morning. This is Eric Blank. Today is July 30th, 2025, and this is the Commissioner's weekly meeting. Commissioner Gilman, any preliminary remarks? Are you ready to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Yes. Hi, good morning. I'm just trying to get the time, get my act together here. I have a public comment hearing in the Mountain Energy proceeding on Monday. Let me see if I can pull up the time of that. It is virtual. 1 second. I'm sorry for the delay. Yeah, 11 a.m. I'm so sorry. Monday, August 4th at 11 a.m. We're having a virtual public comment hearing in the Mountain Energy proceeding, which is for a non-pipeline alternative in proceeding 25A-0044EG. So would encourage folks to look at our calendar, sign up to participate if you're interested. I would also note to those who have been following the proceeding, but maybe not as of yesterday afternoon, there was a settlement agreement filed in that proceeding. So would just encourage folks who are interested and want to participate to get up to speed with the filings in that proceeding by Monday. But look forward to anyone who is there to participate, and nothing else. I would vote to approve the consent agenda.
I've been reading the press clippings, and that is breaking news. I hadn't seen the settlement agreement. Commissioner Plant.
I would vote to approve the consent agenda at 10 o'clock.
As would I. With that, Ms. Harper, convening a couple of executive sessions on litigation. Is that you, Ms. Dundas?
It is, Chair. Good morning, Lindsay Dundas of your Commission Council. And for today is a vote whether to, by minute entry, schedule an executive session on August 4th to discuss Public Service Company of Colorado versus the Colorado Public Utilities Commission, which is in Denver District Court 2025 CV 31857, pursuant to Colorado Statute 246402-382.
You want to tell us the time?
I believe it's at 11 a.m. Hold on.
3 p.m.
Excuse me, 3 p.m. for this one and 3:30 for the next one on August 4th.
Commissioner Gilman.
Yes, I agree.
Commissioner Plant.
I agree as well.
As do I. Black Hills.
Yep. So same thing. Should the commission convene an executive session on August 4th at 3:30 to discuss Black Hills Colorado Electric versus PUC, given Denver District Court number 2025 CV 3205, pursuant to Colorado Statute 246402-382.
I have comments I'd like to make, Ms. Dundas, but I'm restraining myself.
Appreciate that.
Commissioner Gilman.
I agree.
Commissioner Plant.
I also agree.
As do I, and we can do that by minute entry.
Sorry, Chair. I just want to improve upon my prior comment. I actually have 2 public comment hearings that are virtual on Monday for the same proceeding. So the opportunities are 11 to 12 and 6 to 7. Same proceeding. I didn't want to neglect the evening session. Sorry for the interruption.
You got a busy Monday, Commissioner Gilman. Although maybe we'll see what the settlement says. Mr. Farrell, you've been waiting patiently. 25A-0113R, City and County of Denver.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Good morning. And yes, Alan Farrell with Rail Transit Safety Section here in relation to that proceeding 25A-0113R, which I will now address. And on March 25th, 2025, Denver filed an application requesting authority for the construction of a new elevated pedestrian sidewalk above the road surface within the existing Alameda Avenue underpass grade-separated crossings under the tracks of BNSF, UPRR, and RTD in Denver. By decision number C250347, issued on May 5th, 2025, the Commission deemed the application complete, granted the application, and required Denver to file a copy of the signed Construction and Maintenance Agreement, or C&M agreement, for the project by May 31st, 2025, prior to starting work at the crossing. On May 22nd, 2025, Denver filed its motion for extension of time to file instead a completed right of entry agreement with the Commission. The motion states that Denver's contractor contacted BNSF about entering into a C&M agreement and was told that because there are existing agreements in place that allow the city's contractor to access the crossing, a C&M agreement is not needed. By decision C-250451, the Commission granted the motion for extension of time in part and did not find good cause to construe the motion as a request for variance from the Commission's directive to file a C&M agreement, nor did the Commission find good cause in the motion to grant such variance, given the lack of explanation and justification provided in the motion. Most important, the motion did not address who will pay for ongoing maintenance at the crossing, which is a matter typically covered in a C&M agreement. On July 11th, 2025, Denver filed a motion for a variance of the requirement for the city to file a signed C&M agreement for this project. Denver's motion states the city and BNSF have entered into a separate agreement that outlines the terms for the maintenance of the crossing at issue in this proceeding. Denver filed a copy of the agreement in the proceeding, which addresses coverage of the maintenance cost required by the Commission in decision number C-250347, and states that Denver shall, at its own expense, maintain, repair, renew, and reconstruct when necessary the said subway and approaches and roadway therein. RTD, BNSF, and UPRR do not oppose the motion, and unless you have questions, I have a recommendation.
We'd welcome your recommendation.
Thank you. Staff recommends the Commission grant the motion and that the remaining compliance ordered in decision number C-250347 remains as ordered.
Commissioner Gilman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I also,
as do I, and that can be an ABC decision granting the motion, Mr. Farrell. Thank you.
Commissioner.
Proceeding number 23M-0217R, Ms. Sava, 3-year oversight audit of RTD.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jessica Sava with the Rail Transit Safety Section. On July 18th, 2025, staff submitted the semi-annual virtual and on-site safety audit 5 of RTD that included 2 findings to the Commission for review. 7 checklists were reviewed during the spring 2025 audit 5 in the SMS areas of safety management policy, safety risk management, safety assurance, and safety promotion in the RTD PTASP. I will pause for any questions, or I can move to the recommendation.
Nope, we'd welcome your recommendation.
Staff recommends that the Commission approve the semi-annual virtual and on-site audit report dated July 18th, 2025.
Commissioner Gilman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I also agree.
as do I, and that can be an ABC decision approving the audit report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Establishing 2026 emergency telephone charges, Ms. Kirkland.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Jennifer Kirkland, Commission Advisory Staff. Title 29, Article 11, Sections 102 through 102.5 require the Commission to establish by October 1st of each year several items related to 911 surcharge rates and 911 fund distribution formulas to take effect the following January 1. Rule 2148 states that the Commission will open a proceeding annually by August 1st to propose these rates and distribution formulas, what they should be, and invite public comment prior to issuing the final decision establishing the rates and distribution formulas by the statutory October 1st deadline. This initial decision opening the proceeding contains initial recommendations regarding these rates and formulas and establishes a comment cycle for input from the public. The initial recommendations made in the draft opening decisions before you today are setting a state 911 surcharge rate of 15 cents per line per month for calendar year 2026, which includes an anticipated 3-cent fee from the 911 Services Enterprise Board, setting a threshold of $2.17 per line per month for the local 911 governing body's emergency telephone charge rates. This is the threshold above which Commission approval would be required, necessitating an application to be filed by any governing body determining that it requires a rate in excess of $2.17. The rate for 2025 is $2.12, and the proposed rate of $2.17 reflects an adjustment for inflation. Setting a prepaid wireless 911 charge rate of $2.22 per transaction. This is an increase from the current rate of $2.06 and follows a formula that is set out in statute based on the average of all the local emergency telephone charge rates plus the state 911 surcharge rate. And setting the formulas or distribution schedules for both the state 911 surcharge revenues, which statute requires to be distributed based on the number of 911 lines or concurrent sessions each governing body has, and the prepaid 911 charge, which statute requires be distributed based on the wireless call volume associated with each governing body. The recommendations for both of these schedules are attached to the draft opening decision. The opening decision invites interested parties to comment on all of these proposals by August 22nd, with responsive comments due by September 5th, which will provide enough time for the Commission to consider all comments prior to issuing its final decision before the end of September to meet the statutory deadline. I will now pause for any questions you have, or I can provide you with my recommendation.
No, please go to your recommendation.
Thank you, sir. Staff advises the Commission to adopt the draft opening decision, providing initial recommendations and establishing comment deadlines as discussed.
Commissioner Gelman.
Thanks, Ms. Kirkland. I agree.
Commissioner Plant.
I also agree.
As do I, and that can be an ABC decision, opening the proceeding and setting 911 surcharges and formulas as you recommend. So thank you, ma'am.
Commissioners.
Mr. Davis, 23A-0585 Tri-State application for phase 2 of its electric resource plan.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ron Davis of the Commission's advisory staff. I'd like to discuss with you this morning a procedural matter, specifically whether the Commission should schedule a special Commissioners' deliberation meeting in the coming days for adopting what is called a phase 2 decision. And this would be in Tri-State Generation and Transmission Association's now concluding electric resource plan proceeding. As background, this case is the second ERP filed by Tri-State following the enactment of Senate Bill 19236. That statute directed the Commission to promulgate ERP rules for wholesale electric cooperatives. In accordance with Rule 3605, the ERP rule for Tri-State, Tri-State assesses the need for additional resources given its energy and demand forecasts, its existing resources, planning reserve margins, and other factors, including statewide goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in phase 1 of the ERP. Tri-State is also directed to set forth a plan for acquiring resources, either through a competitive process or an alternative method of resource acquisition, and to provide bid policies, requests for proposals, model contracts, and criteria for bid evaluation as necessary. Phase 2 then begins after the Commission issues its phase 1 decision. Tri-State filed the ERP in December of 2023, and phase 1 culminated in an unopposed comprehensive settlement agreement in June of last year. The settlement was adopted through decision number R24602, issued in September of last year. ALJ Segev's recommended decision became the phase 1 decision of the Commission without Commission modification. Tri-State subsequently issued 3 RFPs on September 13th of last year and received 145 individual eligible bid proposals as reported in what's called a 45-day report. And that was filed in December of last year. Then on April 11th of this year, Tri-State filed what's called its phase 2 implementation report. That report summarizes the bid evaluation and selection resulting from Tri-State's competitive RFP solicitations pursuant to the Commission's phase 1 decision. In the report, Tri-State puts forward a preferred portfolio of selected resources. This portfolio adds 700 megawatts of wind and solar generation, 650 megawatts of storage, and 307 megawatts of gas generation between 2026 and 2031. The phase 2 ERP also entails Tri-State replacing the gas turbines at its J.M. Schaefer plant to improve its capacity contributions. Importantly, the preferred portfolio maintains the previous announced retirements of the coal plants at Craig and Springerville. Parties have since filed Phase 2 comments in late May, and on June 10th, Tri-State filed its response to those comments. Tri-State also filed a related motion in April, days after filing the implementation report, seeking a waiver for certain other provisions in the Commission's electric rules related to filing requirements for certificates of public convenience and necessity, or CPCNs. On June 18th, Sierra Club, National Resources Defense Council, and Western Resource Advocates filed a joint motion alleging that Tri-State violated the terms of the Phase 1 settlement agreement, particularly in the assessment within its response comments of the reliability attributes of the resource portfolios presented in the implementation report. The motion suggests that the Commission take certain actions, including either requiring Tri-State to rerun the modeling of the preferred portfolio or to refuse to approve any portfolio that includes a bid for natural gas fire generation in Moffat County. Tri-State then filed a response objecting to the relief sought in the motion. So at this time, the set of Phase 2 filings is complete, and now advisors and counsel have prepared the necessary briefing materials to assist the commissioners enter into their deliberations on a Phase 2 decision. And that would also include a decision on the two motions I just described, the motion challenging Tri-State's preferred portfolio and Tri-State CPCN related motion. And as you know, it's the Commission's general practice to accomplish the scheduling of a special deliberations meeting via the consent agenda on a weekly meeting. But here, we're engaging in a very public discussion about this scheduling of a CDM because the docket before the Commission is very full. However, Tri-State explains in its response to the parties' comments that it hopes to mitigate the material pricing risks that are present in the current global market for renewable energy equipment by promptly executing bid agreements. The two best dates on our collective calendars for a special Commissioners' deliberation meeting are either this Friday afternoon, August 1st, or next Thursday, August 7th. So I'll turn it over to you to discuss the scheduling of deliberations for a Phase 2 decision.
Commissioner Gilman, do either of these days work with you, or do you want to do an extended CWM next Wednesday? What's your pleasure?
How long are you anticipating, Mr. Davis? Again, any idea?
How long the deliberations would be?
Yeah, how long of a meeting would you? I know you're going to say it's up to you, not me, but
I was going to say that, Commissioner Gilman.
you know things, so I don't know. How long are you anticipating a meeting would be scheduled for?
I think we could get through a deliberations on all this within an hour.
Okay. Friday the 1st works better for me, schedule-wise. I'm not really available on the 7th. So I could do that. Probably the earlier the better in the afternoon, but I don't know, tell me what your
I'm free anytime after 10.
I think I'm free at noon. Let me check. Commissioner Plant, what's your situation Friday?
Yeah, I'm good anytime.
Yeah, let me see. Looks like, I mean, 1 o'clock might be the most rational, but
Okay,
I don't know if that works for you.
that works for me. Mr. Davis, why don't we carve out 1 p.m. on Friday, August 1st for the deliberations meeting, and if that works for you and your team, and we can
Yes.
do that by minute entry.
Excellent. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Just give me a second to calendar, and you'll send around in calendar hold, Mr. Davis, if you would.
Yes, we will work with your administrative assistants to schedule that CDM, and we will prepare an agenda. And Mr. Sarah and I will schedule individual meetings with you in preparation.
All right. Thank you, sir. Proceeding number 24A-0547E, Ms. Dundas, you're back.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lindsay Dundas of your Commission Council. This is the consolidated proceeding 25A0061E and 24A0547E. Mr. Mendelson is out there somewhere too for questions if needed. However, we put this on the agenda today to discuss the upcoming consolidated hearing. The hearing is set to begin on August 25th and run through September 5th with a break for Labor Day. The Commission will receive rebuttal and cross-answer testimony later today, and settlement agreements or stipulations are due on August 11th. Earlier in the proceeding, through decision number C250261I, the Commission stated that at a future date closer to the evidentiary hearing, the Commission will consider and provide additional guidance on hearing processes to ensure that the AVPP issues receive appropriate focus. I think that time is now, so we've put it on the agenda to see if there's any specific guidance that you'd like to give to the parties. Prior to this meeting, we've discussed a couple ideas, including panels for discussion on specific topics. We're keeping VPP topic witnesses for public service to the first week of hearing. Today, advisors and councils, while advisors and council have discussed a few ideas for efficiency with you all, we don't have a specific recommendation for you today. But I will add before I open it up to your discussion that the idea of a pre-hearing conference has also been discussed, and that may promote hearing efficiency as well. And it appears that your schedules are open August 21st from 2 to 4 p.m. if there's interest in that. So now I'll stop talking and let you discuss what guidance you'd like to provide through order now to the parties regarding the upcoming evidentiary hearing in the DSP.
Commissioner Gilman, do you have guidance to share? I know advisors and council have been circulating ideas, but just see where you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm fine with the pre-hearing conference. What did you say, the 21st of August?
Yeah.
Yeah, that Thursday from 2 to 4 p.m. With the hearing beginning on Monday, the 25th.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that, and especially to the extent it could expedite some coordination in the hearing. I think that would be helpful as far as running of the hearing to ensure VPP has sufficient time, as well as to organize the topics. I think it would be helpful to at least try to move through topically if possible to some extent, like with the company witnesses, but interested to hear what you all are thinking for format.
Commissioner Plan, I know you have some scheduling issues, so maybe we could do the VPP stuff that first week, but anywhere you'd like to go.
Yeah, no, I was just going to mention that. So if we could do some of the VPP stuff early in the schedule, and then I don't know if we want to try and look at some panels, structuring some panels by issue area and running through the company witnesses in that way. I mean, we've got a lot of interveners, got a lot of issues, and we have a lot of witnesses. So I'm not sure what the best way is to sort of maximize efficiency, but it seems like that might help us out a bit.
So do you want to, should we just invite the parties before, when was rebuttal testimony due, do you know? Is done
today.
Today. So should we just invite the parties to see if they maybe well before August 21st have them submit a cross-examination examination matrix to the extent they can, and see if they have any suggestions about hearing efficiencies, ask them to do the VPP stuff, particularly for the company, but maybe all parties that first week, and see if they have any ideas for efficiencies by creating panels of witnesses, sort of like what we did in that ERP case a couple of years ago.
So the cross-examination matrix currently due on the 19th. So if you're looking for comments from the parties on procedural efficiency and panels, maybe we could have those due the 14th or 15th, so that we had those prior to seeing.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so let's say August 14th as the deadline for comments on the idea of doing panels. Advisors and council had discussed with you all 7 panels, including a forecasting, a grids need assessment, non-capacity investment, VPP issues, cost recovery, cross-case interaction, and then sort of a next steps catch-all category. So would that be what you would be interested in receiving comments on from the parties as the panel idea?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a couple. One more thing, which is my biggest concern in this case, is the amount of capital that the company is proposing to spend both on distribution and elsewhere, and the risk of revenue not growing sufficiently to cover it in ways that harm affordability. So I want to take that up at the beginning of the case. Before I'd like it'd be my intent to take that up at the beginning of the case, no matter what the panel structure. So I just throw that out there before we jump into the details of load forecasting. That's one issue that I'd add to your 8. With that, Commissioner Gilman, anything you'd like to add on the panel's structure suggested by Ms. Dundas, or any preferences you may have?
No, I think that's helpful guidance. I think the areas we've already identified are helpful guidance to the parties to kind of understand their thoughts on it. I guess just briefly, like the problem we're trying to solve, I think in my view, is to improve the efficiency of the hearing, but also particularly, I think increasingly we're seeing multiple witnesses testifying on the same matter, and it could be very helpful to group those for efficiency, to avoid the kind of relay effect of having to go to 3 or 4 people. It just seems to be quite inefficient in the way it's happening right now. And it seems as though we could get quicker and more thorough examination by perhaps having multiple witnesses available, from the same entity, like from the company at the same time, so that we could quickly just get the answer to the question instead of a lot of game of telephone or moving from one to another and that can also avoid the circumstance where we ask and the person's already gone and we have to deal with if we recall them. Like, it just seems as though it could be a solution and worked well in the time we tried it. So anyway, just thought I would add a little bit of color on like why this is coming up and what problem is trying to be solved here.
Commissioner Plant, anything you want to add to that?
Nope, I agree.
All right, so it sounds like Ms. Dundas, you're going to get an ABC order if you can capture my thoughts about the capital spending and how we maintain affordability with capital spending surging everywhere, and the 7 or 8 issues you mentioned, along with the color Commissioner Gilman gave. That'd be great.
Yeah, Chair, sorry, just a few more things. So it'll be an ABC order first that schedules that pre-hearing conference for the 21st, provides an order that the pre-hearing matrix that will be provided on the 19th ensures the VPP issues are done the first week, and then solicits comments from the parties on this panel idea that we've discussed today that prioritizes the capital budget as the first panel and then goes through perhaps the issues as we've outlined it, and you'd like comments on that. I believe I originally said we should get comments by the 14th, but I may amend that to the 12th, just in case we'd have to put this on the agenda on the 13th, if that works for everybody.
Yeah, that'd be great. Commissioner Gilman, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, sounds good.
Commissioner Plant?
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Dundas, anything else on this?
Let's do the 12th at noon, and then I'll be done. Thanks.
All right, thanks. Let's see. Well, let's take up the regional market stuff last again. 25A-022OG, Public Service Company. Get Mr. Davis and Ms. Dundas. Mr. Deaver, we're going to take up the regional markets thing last. Mr. Davis, Ms. Dundas, the company's gas infrastructure plan.
Right. Again, I'm Ron Davis of the Commission's advisory staff. Last week at your weekly business meeting, the Commission set the application of Public Service Company of Colorado for approval of its second gas infrastructure plan, or GIP. The commission also established the parties to the case and granted the company's motion for extraordinary protection for certain information it claims to be highly confidential. The commission also elected to return to today's weekly meeting to determine whether the case would be heard en banc and whether it was necessary to issue an order directing public service to file supplemental direct testimony addressing certain topics. I suggest you begin your discussion in this case this morning with a vote on whether to hear the matter en banc, and then turn to the supplemental direct testimony topics. If the commission decides to send the matter to a hearing commissioner, the order coming from today's meeting will accomplish that assignment and set out the requirements for the supplemental direct testimony. If instead the commission keeps the matter en banc, I'll wrap up this case with some procedural recommendations to get the case moving along.
I think, Commissioner Gilman, I'd like to hear this one en banc. Well, actually, maybe Commissioner Plant. I think I'd like to hear this one en banc. Is that all right with you? I think Commissioner Gilman expressed the preference not to send it to an ALJ. Would you be okay hearing it, all three of us?
Yes, I think that's perfectly fine now.
Commissioner Plant?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Also, I think it works a little better with our students.
Okay. Mr. Davis, should we just jump into supplemental direct, or do you have framing?
No framing. Please move into supplemental direct.
All right, maybe I'll jump in first with a couple things and then turn it over to you guys. My biggest concern in this case is the overall amount of capital that the company wants to spend in what seems to me like a declining sales business. For me, it looks as if the company is proposing to keep capital spending at very high levels, as is shown in Table 5 of the GIP at page 23. Given this concern, I have several requests. First, I'd like to request historical capital spending for 3 years by the individual categories shown in GIP Table 5 back to and including 2022. Second, I'd like to understand why other programmatic capital spending triples in 2 years from $62 million in 2025 to $183 million in 2027. Third, I'd like to see whatever shared capital services capital spending that the company has incurred over the past 3 years and expects to incur over the next 5 that would show up in a future rate base, and is over and above the top Table 5 capital spending. Finally, I'd like to request a 15-year rate forecast model with 3 years of history, showing base rates and overall average rates, including all riders, broken out by residential and total rates and revenue requirement. I'd request that this be provided in executable spreadsheet form, where the user can manipulate the input assumptions using the capital costs from the GIP and based on the company's actual capital and other projections for the natural gas business. And in form, I just requested like what they submitted in the rate case, which was hearing Exhibit 123, Attachment RAM-4C. And that rate case was 24A-0049G. So, Commissioner Gilman, comments, concerns, questions on those 3 or 4 requests? And then we'll go to you.
I don't have any issues on those requests, so I think that's fine. I guess my one question for you is historical capital spending for 3 years, and maybe do you have any concept on why 3 years is the right amount of time?
Just back through, it was what we asked for in the rate case.
Okay. No, I have no modifications, and I'm fine with those.
Yeah, I just want to see how capital spending's changing over time and what's appears to be driving it. Commissioner Plant, anything on those?
Yep, I'm good with that as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilman, supplemental direct requests.
So perhaps shockingly, I don't have anything at this time, but
that is surprising.
I know. Full of surprises. Honestly, in part just due to our schedule and trying to prepare and be ready for this. But I will point out, I think there are some significant very technical issues, especially around forecasting, around the CBAs, around the technical details of the projects and the need of the projects that perhaps need further exploration. So I just wanted to bring up the idea that I think a technical conference may be an appropriate venue to try to flesh out in kind of a more holistic and more productive time-wise manner than some supplemental direct on those details. I think that would probably want to be before answer testimony, ideally a decent amount before answer testimony. So just wanted to bring up that concept. I know the supplemental direct, it seems like we'll have it anyway. It kind of condenses the schedule somewhat, and sometimes of more value than others in terms of how fulsome the responses actually are, to be honest with you. So I'm interested in just seeing if a technical conference would be a fruitful way to try to get some of this more very technical details early in the proceeding.
So I support the idea of a technical conference. Just for clarity, are you seeking to order the technical conference as a result of today's meeting, or would you are you seeking guidance from the parties on the technical conference?
Neither. To me, I don't have a date identified, so I wanted to float the idea with both of you, and then I'd be happy to work with Mr. Davis and Ms. Dundas more on details and guidance as far as topics, on available dates. I just wanted to make sure this was a path you both would support, and then I'd be happy to bring back the details of that. We could probably do, you know, a small order just scheduling it with some more of those details on what we'd expect, in addition to what I already discussed.
Yeah, that works for me. I thought the technical conferences we did in the DSP ERP were really helpful, and gave us an opportunity to share our thinking, you know, prior to seeing the answer testimony, which I thought was really helpful. So I'm generally supportive, and would appreciate Commissioner Gilman coming back with some additional ideas in the future. But Commissioner Plant, anywhere you'd like to go?
Yeah, I don't have any supplemental direct either. Supportive of a technical conference. I guess you're thinking maybe a couple of weeks before answer testimony or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good path forward.
Mr. Davis, does that give you what you need for an ABC decision?
Well, there are a couple procedural steps that I'd like you to consider. First, Ms. Dundas and I recommend that the Commission order the filing of a consensus procedural schedule by a deadline that would follow the issue date of the decision coming from today's meeting. So we'll determine that date based on this, but I do think it could be an ABC decision. The schedule would include a date for the supplemental direct to be filed. It could also include a proposed date for the technical conference that would precede the filing of answer testimony. The order would invite the parties to consult with Ms. Dundas or me regarding the Commissioner's calendar for the scheduling of the technical conference and the hearing dates. The order would schedule a pre-hearing conference based on the calendars of the Commissioners, following the deadline for the filing of the consensus schedule. And then, given the March 25th deadline for the Commission's final decision, the en banc hearing should conclude by January 23rd of next year, and that can also be included in this order. So the decision point that I'm presenting now is whether to, in addition to what you've already decided, to authorize advisors and counsel to include the dates and guidance in the decision that I just described for the hearing before the Commission en banc.
Commissioner Gilman?
Yes, I'm supportive. Thank you.
Commissioner Flint?
I support that as well.
As do I. And again, that can be ABC if that's all. It may not be.
Yes, that's all. Thank you.
25A-0255E, Black Hills CPCN for a 50 megawatt battery storage. Mr. Davis, got a lot on your agenda.
Right. Right, I'm taking care of a lot of business today. So on June 12th, Black Hills Colorado Electric filed an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity for a 50 megawatt battery storage project. Black Hills seeks to own and operate what it calls the Pueblo Battery Resource, and it would be located at the company's Pueblo Airport generating station. The company will acquire the facility pursuant to a build transfer agreement between Black Hills and a third-party developer. Black Hills states that the project is one of the 3 new utility resources in the portfolio the Commission approved for the company in its recent electric resource plan in proceeding number 22A230E. Black Hills claims that the company's proposed ownership of the facility is pursuant to the standards set forth by the Commission in decisions from that earlier proceeding. By the application, Black Hills specifically asks for approval of a CPCN to own and operate the storage project, a presumption of prudence finding for the acquisition cost of the project, approval to avoid allowance for funds used during construction payments by modifying cost recovery to allow the recovery of construction work in progress instead, approval to increase up to a cap the baseline for the associated cost to construct performance incentive mechanism, or CTC PIM, consistent with the terms the company and the developer agreed to in the build transfer agreement due to changes in federal law that could impact the final purchase price, a finding that no operational PIM and no emissions PIM is necessary or appropriate for this project, and finally, approval of the proposed cost recovery for this annual revenue requirement stemming from the project prior to a base rate proceeding, that is through the energy cost adjustment, where each quarter Black Hills would compute a forecasted revenue requirement and a true-up using actual costs, both subject to the annual prudence review proceeding for the ECA. Black Hills filed the application with supporting direct testimony of 2 witnesses. Black Hills also filed a motion for protective order affording extraordinary protection to certain information. This would include negotiated commercial contract terms and conditions, pricing information that is considered highly confidential pursuant to the protective order in the ERP proceeding, and other disclosures of the same categories of information. Black Hills also requests that an expedited decision be made in this proceeding, such that what it calls an initial decision would be issued by December 15th. That would either be a recommended decision or a decision of the Commission that is subject to RRR. Black Hills explains that this expedited process is necessary because the developer of the project has required a final Commission decision by February 15th of next year. Notices of intervention of right were filed both by the Commission's trial staff and the Colorado Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate. Both request a hearing on the application, and neither speaks directly to the request for a decision by December 15th or other expedited procedures. In addition to reviewing Black Hills construction plan, the schedule, project management, and all of that, the trial staff seeks to examine the consistency between this application and the storage project that was bid into the ERP, the impacts on the project of federal action, such as the recently enacted reconciliation bill, and also the tariffs, the proposed cost to construct PIM and whether it's consistent with previous Commission decisions, Black Hills requests not to establish operational or emissions PIMs, the proposed accounting treatment for the construction work in progress rather than the allowance for funds used during construction, and the proposed reporting and communications regarding the project. In its intervention pleading, UCA lists areas of interest that are standard for CPCN cases, and like staff, UCA is particularly interested in the potential impacts of changes in federal law and the tariffs. So the first decision points for you this morning are whether to set the matter for hearing as requested by trial staff and UCA, and whether to refer the matter to an administrative law judge. If the case is referred to an ALJ, the ALJ would rule on the motion for extraordinary protection and establish a procedural schedule for the case in consideration of the company's request for an expedited proceeding. So I'll pause for your discussion and votes.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. So I guess for me, I would like to refer this case to an ALJ, but maybe with some real targeted guidance based on the really multi-year litigation in the ERP and on the record of the ERP and maybe address some of those issues, key issues based on that record in the referral order. And first, I'd say I'd strongly support the need for a timely decision as requested by Black Hills, and would ask the ALJ to develop a procedural schedule that meets the company's requested deadlines for a final decision. I believe there's real cost risk with delay. Second, based on the record in the ERP, I would support in our referral order that the bill transfer price for the construction cost PIM is the dollar amount that appears on page 18, line 13 of Mr. Harrington's direct testimony. Third, and also based on the record in the ERP process, my belief is that under a build transfer structure, the transfer of project company ownership occurs at substantial completion. As such, for me, the cost and risk of construction and construction finance is on the bidder and the utility project buyer, and that it's not appropriate to add these costs to the construction cost PIM baseline established in the ERP. Fourth, I agree with Mr. Harrington's direct testimony characterization at page 15, lines 1 to 6, that the legal standard for any adjustment of the construction PIM away from the ERP baseline requires an ALJ finding or a commission finding of force majeure as it's currently defined in the model IPP PPA. Said another way, the ALJ will need to explore if the facts and circumstances surrounding this situation would be sufficient to support a force majeure offtake price adjustment for an IPP under the definitions in the model PPA. As such, the purpose of the construction PIM is to mimic to some extent the constructional and operation risks that IPPs routinely take. But in this PIM, only 25% of the construction cost and risk is assigned to the utility, and even that has a 5% debt bond. Finally, given that understanding of risk allocation, I'm struggling to see how it's appropriate for the company to obtain an interest-free loan through a QIP mechanism. For me, the whole point of the PIM is to allocate risk to the utility and the bidder and protect customers. So I'd like to put all that in the referral order if you guys are willing. It's beyond, it's a little what we've done in the past, but given the multi-year record in the ERP and that we heard both cases, both phase 1 and phase 2 en banc, I think it's appropriate. But Commissioner Gilman, thoughts, guidance, questions, concerns?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. I'm fine with that. And I think to the extent it provides reference for everything else that's been going on and context for the ALJ as they evaluate this project specifically, I think that's fine. And I would agree with sending it to an ALJ, I guess, implicit in those comments.
Commissioner Plant, you go with sending it to ALJ and providing guidance in a referral order.
Yeah, I support both sending it to the ALJ and the reference referral.
Mr. Davis, does that give you what you need for an ABC referral order?
Right. If there's agreement that the order can go out without review, as I drafted up, given Chair Blank's statements, then that's fine. And then also for clarity, the order referring the matter will explain that the application was deemed complete tomorrow, July 31st, by operation of the Commission's rules.
I assume you guys are okay with this going ABC, Commissioner Gilman?
Yes.
Commissioner Plant?
Yes.
Does that give you what you need?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis, ongoing string 25A-0266E, tri-state generation entry into SPP RTO West. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, I was doing so well. For my last item this morning, on June 16th, Tri-State filed an application for the Commission to render a public interest determination for its entry into the Regional Transmission Organization of the Southwest Power Pool being developed to serve parts of the Western Interconnection. Tri-State filed the application pursuant to the provisions in the Commission's electric rules governing Colorado utility participation in organized wholesale markets. Those rules implement the requirements of Senate Bill 2172, codified at 40-5108, requiring Colorado transmission utilities to join an RTO by January 1st of 2030. At the July 16th weekly meeting, the Commission addressed the request for intervention and directed Tri-State to confer with the newly established parties on a procedural schedule. This action was taken by the Commission as it prepares to address the motion to adopt a procedural schedule that Tri-State filed with its application on June 16th. As directed, Tri-State filed a consensus procedural schedule on July 25th. In the notice, Tri-State explains that it conferred with all parties and reached agreement on the following procedural schedule and hearing format. For hearing format, the parties agreed on a public comment hearing format. That is, the required public comment hearing would be structured similar to a rulemaking hearing before the Commission, where there's an opportunity for parties and the public to provide comments, and the Commission can ask questions of Tri-State and the parties. Tri-State explains that this agreed-to format is meant to strike a balance across the procedures to be used in the case and clarifies that the hearing would not include cross-examination or other questioning between the parties. The proposed date of this hearing is October 7th, which works for the commissioners based on a review of the appropriate calendars. Leading to that hearing date, the parties propose initial comments to be filed no later than September 10th and response comments to be filed no later than September 25th. Those dates, including the October 7th public comment hearing, would enable the Commission to render a final decision in the matter by November 13th in accordance with the general timeline laid out in the Commission's organized wholesale market rules. So the decision before you now is whether to adopt this hearing schedule proposed by the parties in lieu of the procedural schedule that Tri-State put forward in its earlier motion. So in other words, should the Commission grant the procedural motion in part with modifications by adopting the consensus procedural schedule filed on July 25th. I can provide a recommendation or answer questions.
If you could give us a recommendation, Mr. Davis, and then we'll come back with questions, comments, and concerns or a vote.
Okay, I recommend that the Commission adopt the consensus procedural schedule. The proposed dates and procedures conform to the Commission's rules and will enable the Commission to render the required public interest determinations in a timely manner consistent with Senate Bill 2172.
That makes sense to me, Commissioner Gellman.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Davis. I agree.
Commissioner Plant.
I agree as well.
As do I, and I think that can be an ABC order, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's jump to proceeding 25A-0075E. It's the application of a public service company for approval to recover the costs associated with joining the SPP Markets Plus Day Ahead Market. You might mute Mr. Deaver. There's like a back feed coming from you.
Can you turn that off? We'll take care of it right now. Sorry.
Yeah, and if you could just mute, there you go. Since there was a full presentation of the case and party arguments last week, can you mute Mr. Deaver?
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump into the deliberation with some added thoughts before I turn it back over to you. By way of background, I've been struggling with these regional market issues for over 3 years. Throughout this process, my North Star, my guiding light has been the Colorado-specific Colorado Transmission Coordinating Act, CTCA modeling and report by trial staff that was submitted to the legislature at the end of 2021. At its core, the CTCA modeling involved a capacity expansion and dispatch optimization framework. In addition to estimating production cost savings, this modeling also could more fully evaluate the interaction between different regional market structures and new generation, and to a lesser extent, new transmission. I'm going to share my screen and pull up the report, which is in the record of this case as hearing exhibit 1505, and that both Commissioner Gilman and I voted to approve for transmittal to the legislature. On page, can you guys see that? Yeah, good. On page 2 of the executive sum, it says the participation of Colorado electric utilities in an energy imbalance market could deliver on the order of $50 million in annual savings to Colorado, or approximately 1% of a total annual Colorado electric revenue requirement of $6 billion. It goes on to say that full participation by Colorado electric utilities in an RTO could deliver approximately $230 million annually, or 4 to 5% of the total annual revenue requirement. And finally, it concludes that a day-ahead market construct could deliver savings somewhere between these two options, depending on the exact market services included. And that's in that first full paragraph under B findings. As such, for me, I view the regional market opportunity as a continuum, where at the RTO end of the spectrum, we're fully optimizing dispatch, unit commitment, ancillary services, utilization of existing transmission, and ultimately new generation and transmission planning. And whether we get to a full RTO or not, as additional market services become available along the continuum, the benefits of the market increase more toward the higher end, potentially into the hundreds of millions of dollars per year of saving range. And that's been my focus, trying to realize these statewide savings, again, somewhere between 50 and a couple $100 million per year, which for me arise primarily for better integrating the two Colorado balancing authorities across multiple market services, including generation and transmission. I now want to pull up hearing exhibit 902, but which both of you mentioned in our last deliberation. Let me see if I can get that. There it is. Can you see the spreadsheet? Yeah, okay. The first line shows Public Service Company of Colorado revenue requirement starting at about $4 billion in 2025 and going to over $7 billion by 2031. For me, this over $3 billion projected revenue requirement growth, along with the potential associated revenue rate increases in the event that the sales growth on line 17 doesn't materialize, is probably my single biggest concern in Colorado regulation right now. And maybe there's 5 or 7 things we can do to help with these potential rate increases, including encouraging positive net revenue growth, limiting capital spending, securitization, etc. For me, the regional markets effort is one potential option for managing this growth in revenue requirement, as annual savings of up to 4 to 5% are of a sufficient order of magnitude to make a difference in this environment. And for me, some significant portion of the costs shown on lines 6 to 13 will go to help us move along the continuum, potentially toward a full RTO, where a day-ahead market is just one interim stat. And this funding can help provide additional market services with a single operator, as well as a common approach to resource adequacy, GHG accounting, and pricing, transparent pricing across both balancing authorities. Without these investments, I think this integration effort will end because there's no funding support. In contrast to the size of these benefits, when you look at line 16A, which I think you both referred to last week, it shows annual costs in the $3 to $7 million range. This line right here from 2026 to 2031. With cumulative negative costs, I think, as Commissioner Plant mentioned, peaking just under 30 million in 2031. After that, net costs increase to a positive 3 to 7 million to 2042, with cumulative nominal dollar savings of 17 million, or on a net present value basis, it costs a negative 3 million. So I guess for me, incurring those small losses in the near term potentially creates an opportunity to save orders of magnitude more per year. This 3 million a year could result in 30, 50, $100 million in savings. So that's what I'm focused on. And although we're a long, long way for realizing this level of savings, it seems worth trying to me. So a couple of final thoughts based on our previous conversation. Last week, Commissioner Gilman, you suggested that RA benefits from Markets Plus could be realized by having the company join RAP separate from Markets Plus. I would just say I'm not sure we have the authority to order that. And in the absence of a FERC-approved Markets Plus tariff, I'm not sure I see a way to make other market participants in the balancing authority comply with the RAP standards. One comment you raised last week on GHG accounting had to do with FERC potentially preempting regional efforts. And again, I just say, Commissioner Plant, even if FERC did that, which I think is unlikely, we'd still have access to the hourly energy production numbers by units, which is all we need for the GHG accounting, as we know the unit emission factors. So in sum, although far from perfect, I continue to think that approving this application is perhaps the only way forward on the continuum toward better integrating the two Colorado balancing authorities and to create common RA, GHG accounting, and transparent pricing mechanisms. So with apologies for the long discussion, Commissioner Gilman, anywhere you'd like to go.
Well, thanks, and appreciate the follow-up discussion. I took a bit of time to review the record, especially review the SOPs, and I am very, unfortunately for you, have not changed my opinion on this. One of the complications, especially of the Colorado PUC report from 2021, is the author in his testimony indicated we should not rely on that report, and further indicated that the main takeaway from the report was much greater savings are available through an RTO. And I understand, and I really appreciate the vision and the hope that this puts us on a continuum, as you put it, to get to a full RTO. The problem is that's not really borne out. That is certainly not understood by the investments being made, that any of those are transferable or useful into an RTO. I mean, perhaps they will learn things, but that's not necessarily, like, the money spent is not necessarily transferable. And also, being when the statutory deadline hits, that will be significantly still negative financially in this situation. The company expressed the intent to essentially hold that against the economics of joining an RTO in their waiver application for that statutory requirement. So, unfortunately to me, in reviewing the documents, instead of appearing like a rational continuum or a plan to progress, this appears to, in some ways, work against the goal of moving to a full RTO due to the economic situation by that statutory requirement, but also due to really no significant evidence that there are really transferable kind of costs or systems here that would help move in that direction.
Can I just ask you a question on that, or do you want to keep going?
No, go ahead. whatever you think.
I'm not following you. It seems like optimizing dispatch and unit commitment between the two Colorado balancing authorities is along the way to an RTO. There's maybe 4, 5, 6 functions, and this gets you at least 2 of the functions. So I don't see why you think this is somehow a diversion from the RTO. To me, this just seems like baby steps along the pathway. So I'm just completely missing you on that assertion.
I probably think of that primarily because of the company's testimony in that regard. In trying to identify if any of the investments we're asking ratepayers to pay are directly transferable, that's more or less unknown. But also the fact that when we go to evaluate moving closer to 2030, if the company should join an RTO, they have still essentially a negative underwater situation in Markets Plus, and that will be shown in the modeling as essentially a negative of joining a full RTO, which does not seem productive in moving to that discussion. That actually seems like something that will make it harder from a cost benefit analysis to really evaluate the benefits of moving to a full RTO, whereas staff points out in both their testimony and the report is kind of the real prize in terms of savings for ratepayers.
Sorry for interrupting. If you want to keep going.
No, you're good. With regard to SEAMs, kind of same thing. I certainly appreciate the intent. I think it's a very reasonable intent to try to minimize and smooth out SEAMs going forward. But I have a lot of concern that most of the parties in here don't see it that way, that there still is a significant seam between Markets Plus and RTO West, and that kind of the ideas to help smooth that or move forward are kind of mostly just ideas, some of which are still being objected to by certain parties. So it's not immediately clear to me in any way that we have a really workable way forward on the seams, and that differentiation between Markets Plus and SPP West does anything to make that better just because they're both SPP. So that's where I would say on that, but happy to hear from you or from Commissioner Plant.
Yeah, why? I mean, how does it get better if you don't spend money? It seems like if you invest in trying to improve the situation, it'll get better. But if you just cut off the funding, which again seems tiny compared to the potential benefits, how does anything ever get better?
Well, I mean, there's no seam if they're in the same market, right? And I think what we're looking at is they have I understand that your perspective is that all efforts and all discussion will cease. And I don't really understand that perspective, and that there is a statutory requirement for them to move to an OWM. So it seems to me the conversation necessarily must continue. The company has to continue to evaluate this, and they have to bring that evaluation to the commission within a matter of years. So I just don't see the situation as going away completely. I see this as giving us more time to actually evaluate how we more holistically solve these issues in terms of themes, in terms of greenhouse gas, see what plays out in the interim years. Otherwise, we're all but ensuring at this point that we have a seam between Markets Plus and SPP West, which will take, more than a decade to even pay for itself to prove out that existing to even possibly move to another solution. So I think we necessarily, by law, have another opportunity to evaluate what the best path forward looks like before committing to having a seam that there's not a real solution to, despite there being, a common character in SPP.
Just completely disagree with you. But all right, Commissioner Plant, I guess you get to decide this one.
Thank you, Chair. as I said last week, I appreciate all your work on regional markets leading up to this proceeding, as well as your thoughts on this proceeding last week.
You remember my comments from Game of
I do.
Thrones too?
I do.
All right.
And I want to, acknowledge that and highlight your extensive experience with markets that really dwarfs my own. So I also appreciate the week to go over the comments and observations, revisit the record with those observations in mind. As you know, last week my position was largely aligned with Commissioner Gilman. I continue to be concerned regarding the adversarial relationship the federal government has established with states rather than that traditional supportive role. It's a dramatic shift. And while that alone is not determinative, I think it does need to enter into our assessment of risk. I think we're presented with a proposal that really didn't take into account the obligation to join an OWM and evaluate the costs and benefits during the appropriate time frame to make an evaluation of public interest. And when seen in that light, that raises a concern for me regarding the establishment of public interest. And so in this way, I was aligned with what Commissioner Gilman was talking about. However, after reviewing your comments over the last week and the reports that were submitted that you mentioned, evaluating the relative costs and benefits of an EIM, an organized wholesale market, and the estimates of where a day-ahead market falls within those two, I think you're correct. There was not enough of a consideration of the wider benefits the market construct offers as an interim step towards joining an organized wholesale market. Among those, transparency benefits of wholesale pricing, consistency of a market structure, and the benefits of efficiency with joining the two BAs is really substantial, as you pointed out, and was perhaps not fully valued. I would note that I also went back and reread the Reddy report, which came out in 2010, so 15 years ago, and it talked about the cost efficiencies of aligning the two balancing authorities and how there was efforts going on to try and do more of that. That was 15 years ago. So as always, things are moving fairly slowly. You also brought up the wider, in some ways, ancillary benefits of joining the two balancing authorities beyond the direct considerations of PSCO service and into overall electric service in Colorado as a whole. And while, again, these benefits are not determinative, I think they are substantial and should be a piece of the consideration. I think we do have an interest in making the overall system more cost efficient. Not to the detriment of PSCO customers, certainly, but when the opportunity presents itself to accomplish that in the process of a proceeding, it doesn't help anyone to be overly parochial. So I also believe the exponentially high benefits of the organized wholesale market over the cost of joining Markets Plus are so significant, and I think you mentioned those numbers earlier, that it not only negates my concerns regarding the potential future loss of investment in Markets Plus, but it also doesn't necessarily reject either of the potential Western markets that are being designed as candidates, ultimately, for whichever organized wholesale market we do join. So I think we have a lot of details to work out in how we do proceed in the approval of the Markets Plus application. But with all this in mind, I'll join you, Mr. Chairman, in the general approval of the application. I do have some issues regarding the greenhouse gas tracking, the potential seams issues that Commissioner Gilman was talking about, but also the transition to the organized wholesale market timing that is raising some concerns with me. And I don't know if you want to have that discussion now or how you want to proceed on this, but I can highlight those concerns.
Yeah, if you would highlight those concerns, that'd be great.
So I've been trying to align my thinking with the timeframes in the organized wholesale market. And that I wanted to raise with you both a concern I have. The statute says public service needs to join an organized wholesale market by 2030. Our rules indicate that any waiver needs to be applied sometime between 2027 and 2029. I think, it's been made clear by the company that they're not particularly enamored with joining an organized wholesale market. And I think if left to their own devices, we'd probably get a waiver in June of 2029, which is the deadline. And at that point, it would be almost a year before there was a litigated decision, at which point we're well into 2030. And if the commission at that time rejects the waiver, the company would begin consideration of the available markets. There'd be an analysis, I'm guessing probably another 18 months for an application to join one or another of the markets would be filed. Again, another litigated proceeding. And at the end of that time frame, I think we're well into 2034, 2035 before we actually join the market. So while that timing isn't directly contradictory to the statute, because the statute does give the commission the authority to delay joining, it's certainly contrary to the intent to join in 2030. So I would like to see the commission take some proactive steps to reduce that time frame, perhaps requiring filing earlier. In this proceeding, I think it was suggested that an application to join would be required by June 2028 to meet the 2030 target. And that's a year before the deadline, even for filing a waiver in our rule. Maybe directing a report analyzing the available markets, essentially providing all the necessary information for an application and an evaluation of public interest with enough time to complete that litigation in order to meet that 2030 timeframe. But I do think we need to be proactive on it. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that and see if you share those concerns.
Yeah, so Commissioner Plant, do you have a date you'd like to require that filing by? So you'd like to bring up the waiver filing date to June 2028, is that what I heard? And maybe accompany it with a report?
Well, here's the thing. So this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about. So the first time in our rule that they can do that is, I think, in 2027. But that's an entire litigated proceeding on its own. So, count out a year from that. The last date they can do it is June 2029. So if we wanted to be able to complete a waiver, and the commission at that time would have the opportunity to either approve the waiver or deny the waiver. But if they deny the waiver, you want to have enough time to get to the 2030 date for the organized wholesale market. So I would say we would need to look at the front end of that rule where they say, I think it's June 2027, and advisors can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I think that's the first date when they could apply a waiver, and we might want to make that a hard date so that there's enough time afterwards to get into 2030.
So the proposal is to make a hard date of filing on the waiver, bring the waiver up to July of 2027.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Commissioner Gilman, any comments really on anything? If you'd like to engage Commissioner Plan in a dialogue on his thinking or on this bringing up the waiver of the OWM guideline, wherever you'd like to go.
No, I think moving up the waiver date is fine. I would just probably want to check with Mr. Zadi or someone that's something we can do here. that would be enforceable based on what the rules say. But yeah, I mean, a solid reason to believe they anticipate submitting a waiver, not an application to join an OWM. So to the extent that doesn't turn out the way they expect, I think it's reasonable to have the time in the schedule that the statutory requirement could potentially be met, although I think it takes like years to join a market even after we make our decision. But I think that's a reasonable way to go. And were you saying within the waiver to make sure we're requiring an analysis of available markets? Is that covered by the rules?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on. So, I mean, maybe I'm being really pessimistic, but, if they get, let's play it out. If they get rejected 2028 after filing in 2027, my guess is they don't just turn around and and submit the application. They're going to say, well, we need 18 months to do an evaluation of the markets. We need to, pull together all the necessary information. And that's going to take, however long, a year, 18 months, I don't know. And I'm wondering if there's something we can do to get that evaluation done in advance, so that if there is a rejection of the waiver in 2028, they have already all the information available to turn around and submit an application.
All right, so I like that. So what you're saying is maybe at the same time they submit the waiver, there's also a bunch of work and maybe a report analyzing the RTO as part of it. So it's not just a waiver, it's not just a flat waiver application saying no, 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 but they've also systematically looked at the options for an RTO, analyzed, participated in the discussions, and
we've had a litigated proceeding that has added to that record, that could then be considered in an application.
I don't have the statutory language in front of me. Is the deadline that they have to join OWM by beginning of 2030, or that they need to apply by the beginning of 2030?
I think that the language, and Mr. Zadi may want to correct me here. I think the language says that they should join an OWM by 2030. I think it's January 2030, but it also gives the Public Utilities Commission the ability to delay that time or, approve a waiver.
I like the idea of requiring the analysis at the same time as the waivers submitted. And, hopefully that'll guide what happens over the next couple of years in the investment. And I totally agree with you. It's ridiculous that these two balancing authorities are not together somehow.
I was not even surprised when I read the 2010 report that
right.
And they were optimistic that they were working towards a solution at the time. So,
15 years ago. So I think we've got consensus, maybe a 3-0 vote on the waiving the rules, and see if we can require an early filing, and we'll work with council. And if we have to bring it back, we can bring it back. Did you have other issues you wanted to raise, Commissioner Plant?
Well, I do have some issues around, as you noted on the greenhouse gas tracking. I think that it was raised by staff that they thought there was a real possibility of federal actions. I agree with that. That would limit or prohibit even greenhouse gas tracking, and certainly their action yesterday sort of points in that direction. And I think you noted in your comments that last week as well as today that we should have hourly data that would allow us to track greenhouse gas emissions as well, or maybe better than we currently can. But I think that really needs to be a red line for us. We need to make sure that anything we do doesn't compromise our progress towards the state emissions objectives and our abilities to evaluate that. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I don't know if once final GHG protocols are established and a verification by CDPHE that we can track emissions effectively, and a directive saying that without that we wouldn't move forward.
All right, so no specific structure or approach, but strong language in the order saying that this is a critical issue for us. And I think that's what the rules state too. And
I don't know if we need to do we need to put something in there that CDPHE could verify sort of how they do now with their emissions.
Yes, I guess we can ask CDPHE for thoughts on this issue. I don't know. Ms. Rosati, did you want to jump in on this one or the waiver issue?
I had some clarifying questions for the kind of waiver filing issue. For the greenhouse gas accounting thoughts, I think we can. So the request is we would be requesting that CDPHE
I
does.
think we'd be highlighting the importance of this issue to the commission and the need to have the utility and SPP work with the air quality, the Air Pollution Control Division to make sure we have what we need to determine compliance. Even under different types of federal action, which we probably can't predict today, given it's coming from every angle. So something like that. That's how I try and draft the language. Would you say that differently, Commissioner Plant?
No, I think that's right. You just want to have, after, they're talking about what it would look like. So it's really hard to make a determination on whether or not it works. And so after that's settled, just making sure that we do get the information that we need in order to do an evaluation of our greenhouse gas emissions and make sure that we can achieve compliance.
Does that give you what you need to draft a TBC order on that issue, Ms. Rosati?
I think so. I think we might need to give a little bit more thought as to what kind of response or how CDPHE would be going about this if they were to agree to do this. And
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, it's more on the utility and the parties, I think. It's stating the overriding importance of this issue. It's outlining the concerns about federal preemption, and then it's having the utility, the Air Pollution Control Division, and the other parties, report back to us about what they're doing to protect things, something like that, to ensure we can have the data we need to ensure compliance.
Yeah, I think the reporting back piece is what I'm thinking through. And I think if we need a short follow-up discussion on that next week at CWM, we could have it. But I think we can draft the order based off of this.
Yeah, and we'll see if we can't work it out in the TBC process. We'll bring it back.
I had some clarifying questions about the waiver filing direction. Under the rules, it requires utilities to file a waiver application between June 1st, 2027 and June 1st, 2029, unless otherwise directed by commission order. So if we want to do kind of a hard date filing, we could do June 1st, 2027, which would make sense with the rules.
That's what I was.
Okay. And then in terms of analysis of the available OWMs, do you have any specifics that you could provide right now? Are you looking for, a cost benefit analysis similar to what has been discussed in this proceeding, or more general reporting?
Yeah, I think we're gonna want to have an analysis of costs and benefits. We're going to want an analysis of how it impacts reliability and emissions. And I don't know if you guys have other things that we want. I mean, really all the things that we're going to be considering in the adoption of a particular regional market. I don't know if either one of you know exactly what dates those are supposed to be final.
I don't know the dates, but I think in the rules we did outline the type of analysis we wanted to see for them joining an RTO. So I think the rules put structure on the analysis so we can cite to that. I don't know the timelines. Ms. Rosati, Mr. Deaver.
Sorry, I was taking notes. The timelines for what?
For the regional markets to be finalized in terms of being able to do an analysis like this. They would have to both be sort of established with, you know, right now I don't. Oh, did I drop out?
You dropped out for a couple seconds.
Sorry.
But
Sorry.
I think I have a response. So I think, you know, for SPP RTO West, it would likely be operating. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it would be operating. A potential other market might not be. And so I think similar to here where, you know, you're kind of using best available data, hopefully. You know, I don't know that we can have, you know, I don't know that both or all markets available would be operating at this point.
Hard to know.
All right, we'll see. Do your best and see. We'll see if we can work it out on the TBC process.
Okay, I'll look to the rules on applications for RTOs and ISOs to, okay, do this part.
Commissioner Plant, did you have other issues?
The only other issue was the SEAMS issue, and I think staff noted in his statement of position is EO echoed their concerns regarding the risk of these issues. I think Commissioner Gilman also mentioned that, you know.
I can't hear you well enough.
Sorry. Connection is going in and out, I think. So the SOP from staff and also CEO talked about their concerns regarding SEAMS issues and the prospective savings that we could get through combining the balancing authorities. And as Commissioner Gilman pointed out, that they're both FPP products, but it's not the same product. So I think there's an ongoing effort to ensure that these issues are addressed and efficiencies are maintained. But we want to make sure that we can achieve those efficiencies as the process moves forward. And you know, that would be another sort of a trigger for continuing forward if they don't achieve those kinds of alignments in the development.
So as I'm hearing you, it's sort of an order requiring maybe annual reporting on the SEAMS issue and, you know, maybe some language in the order about the importance of this and, you know, our ongoing support depends on making progress, something like that.
Yeah.
Mr. Deaver, Ms. Rosati, does that give you what you need on that? Well, let me ask Commissioner Gilman, would you, any comments on that piece?
On reporting on SEAMS?
Yes, supporting on SEAMS, stating the importance and, you know, sort of saying our support for this depends on seeing progress.
What does that mean? I mean, I know some of the interveners have suggested that as an alternative to denial could be a conditional approval, which sounds complicated. But you had said our support on this depends on that. I think you're approving support today. So what does it mean if the SEAMS don't develop, which they haven't, and so
Just
what would happen?
It's just stating the concern as forcefully as we can and asking for some reporting. And, you know, I guess really what it's going to do is influence our thinking in that June 2027 filing.
About, I guess, if continued purchase. Well, I don't know. I guess the alternative, if they're asking for a waiver, is continued participation in Markets Plus. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the reporting's nice because we know more, but it doesn't actually solve an issue, right? So if they're just not working fast enough or not focused on solving the seams issue, that, we're approving it today knowing that. There's no real going back unless we go to a conditional approval. Same on greenhouse gas, right? Like we're focused on reporting rather than making sure there's lower greenhouse gas, which we don't really have that power in the market. I get it. But staff presents in their SOP what they consider a reasonable concern that greenhouse gas could increase rather than decrease due to increased runtime on fossil generators, especially, if we see some bizarre federal action here. So, yeah, I'm supportive of reporting. I think that's fine. I just don't want us to be disillusioned that reporting solves a problem it doesn't solve. It gives us an update, but it doesn't actually in and of itself make progress on the shortcoming.
Mr. Deaver, questions, comments?
I think these would be important steps in order to put the company on notice of what the commission needs to see from them going forward, which includes a lot of information that it seems to me you wish you would have had for this case. So I think that would be really a positive addition to the commission order.
All right. Well, I think we're all three of us are supportive, and we'll take a look at it when it gets circulated for TBC. Commissioner Plant, did you have other issues, or was that it?
I think that hold on a second, let me just double check. I mean, there's other things that we talk about. Those are the three big issues. The and the economy.
All right. Anything else on this one? Oh, we got to do cost recovery. I just probably do it through the ECA with like a quarterly in arrears with no return. Or I guess we could do deferred accounting on the capital and let them collect it in the next rate case. Commissioner Plant, do you have any preference on cost recovery, ECA or deferred accounting?
Yeah, I think deferred accounting through the rate case.
I lost you for a second. It sounds like ECA for non-capital and then deferred accounting. It just sit in a deferred account and they get it back with some return at the time of the next rate case, or no return.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was testimony in the SOPs that was really pointing towards just doing submission in the next rate case.
I lost you.
Yeah, I hate to delay this any longer, but Commissioner Plant, maybe you can call in. I'm not understanding your points well.
Yeah, I don't know. Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I was just saying that I think that the testimony we saw in the SOPs really pointed more towards doing a recovery through the next rate case.
Okay, so the deferred account and then recovered in the next rate case. Does that work for you, Commissioner Gilman, or do you have different thoughts?
Yeah, question. Is that for we've got like the IT and software costs, and then we've got like the actual participation costs and the repayment of this $150 million. So is that both or one?
I would say any expenses go through the ECA, any capital costs get deferred and recovered in the next rate case.
Okay, and we're considering capital costs, those basically the software and IT development costs.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay. Yeah.
Ms. Rosati, Mr. Deaver, are there other issues we need to resolve?
Just wondering whether Commissioner Gilman would like to write a dissent or have her dissent noted in a footnote.
I'd like to, but it's gonna depend on the time that's actually available. So pencil me in to do that, but if time doesn't allow, that might be how things turn out.
Mr. Deaver, anything else before we adjourn for the day?
No, sir.
Ms. Rosati, anything else? Does that give you what you need for a TPC order?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Commissioner Plant, any final thoughts before we adjourn for the day?
Nothing else, thanks.
Commissioner Gilman?
Nothing additional, thanks.
Well, just thanks to both of you for redigging into the record and taking another look at everything in this case. Appreciate you both. So with that, thanks, and we'll see you, I guess, Friday.